friends, I'll be back a little later in this video to let you know more details about my super mega massive big batch cooking extravaganza sale. Be sure to click the first link in the description below and save up to 90% off all of my popular big batch cooking guides and so much more when you click the first link in the description below. Well, hello friends. What are we doing? Okay, let's just jump into this. So, remember we were having sourdough summer and we were doing it. We were making sourdough loaves and eating them and getting them in the freezer, and we were making sourdough bagels. And we did homemade sourdough hamburger buns, and we did homemade sourdough hot dog buns, and we did sourdough pancakes, and we did things with sourdough discard. We were rocking the sourdough summer. And then I got hit by a freight train. Okay, we'll just leave it at that. And I have not been doing any sourdough in a while. But, okay, it's December now. Doesn't matter. What are we gonna call this? Just sourdough winter. It's not as fun as sourdough summer. It doesn't quite roll off the tongue the same. But we're back at it. I have been feeding my sourdough starter over the last couple days. Let me show you. Okay, they're glass, but I'm doing it. Broken wrist and stepping along the road. Yay, look at us. Oh, look at this. Look at our bubbles. Yeah, lots of bubbles. I did feed this a few hours ago. Now this is a lot of sourdough starter, but we need a lot of starter for what we're cooking up. But see, we got all the bubbles in here. So let's get going prepping super mega sourdough. I also plan to do some other big batch cooking projects in this video. We're just gonna jump in and the end will tell us. Where will we end? Where will the cooking projects end? Who knows? But to start, we are doing my friend Lisa from Farmhouse on Boone. This was my very first sourdough recipe I did in sourdough summer. She has, so Farmhouse on Boone, it's her beginner's sourdough bread recipe. It's only 4 ingredients. I just did this step by step when I first got going, and in my height of my sourdough summer experience, I was doing 12 loaves at a time. Okay, we were really, thank you Lisa, we were learning, we were doing all the things. So now we're back at it. I've rinsed out my little bowls. They are ready to go. We're of course gonna go super mega. But let's do this step by step. I will link Lisa's recipe and any other recipes I use in the description below. Let's get cooking sourdough and whatever else happens. So I have 14 bowls available. I was thinking we were gonna do 12, but I have 14. So maybe we'll see how much starter we have. And so going through the recipe, I forget all my little steps. I remember that we had really good routines down. And so just going over Lisa's recipe again today, it looks like I'm gonna mix the 4 ingredients all the multiple times. I'm gonna do my stretch and folds every 30 minutes over about an hour and a half. And then it seems so simple, then I just cover everything. All my little bowls here, I don't need these bowls yet, okay? I'm just using, and I know there's some controversy about the metal bowls, but I've bulk fermented and did sourdough in metal bowls before, and I know some other folks who have, and it all works out okay in the end. I don't know what that means for you, but anyway, I've got glass bowls, I've got metal bowls. I also have mystery plastic bowls, okay? So, we're going to then let it sit here on the island for a good 12 hours or so. Then, basically tomorrow morning, I will take each ball of dough out, roll it, make it into a ball. I'm not reading the exact directions right now, but we'll do the next process. Then we will get it in these baskets where they will then go in the refrigerator for another 12 to 15 hours. So if I start this today, almost 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and I'm able to get them in the refrigerator, so it's Monday, it'll be probably Wednesday morning before I get baking all of these. But if you all remember from sourdough summer, I got in a really good routine for several months that once I got this done, I basically had another load that was going. And the sourdough that we made in bulk that I froze in July, my kids actually ate that recently in November, and it was fantastic. So Now that I'm feeling in my heart and soul like I can get going on my sourdough experience and adventures again, I feel like while I'm doing it, and we will have fresh sourdough, and we will have sourdough in the freezer. And you know we do everything big batch and big batch cooking around here, and we have for almost a decade. Yes and amen. So let me introduce you to my 2023 Christmas sale. It is the super mega massive, because that's how we do things, big batch cooking extravaganza sale over at shop.largefamilytable.com, where you can get up to 90% off of my very popular big batch cooking guides to make your holidays and your new year and your 2024 a lot more holly jolly and a lot less helter skelter. You get all 24 of my big batch freezer meal guides. Now, back in the day, I called those the large family freezer meal packs. They have been updated, they're beautiful, they have fresh graphics, they have a whole new face, and they are now called the Big Batch Freezer Meal Guides. You get guides 1 through 24 with hundreds, so many big batch freezer meals that you can use to cook through and fill your freezer with meals to help you in the weeks and months to come. There's also sheet pan big batch meal guides, slow cooker meal plans, electric pressure cooker, big batch baking, and so much more. And as a free special bonus that is a $44.97 value, you get my brand new, and it's so beautiful, triple big batch holiday bundle as a free bonus when you purchase the 90% off bundle, which will be linked in the description below. That includes Make Ahead Holiday Breakfast Guide 1, Make Ahead Holiday Meals Guide 2, and Make Ahead and Freeze Holiday Cookies Guide 2. The super mega massive big batch cooking bundle is over 65 products. They're up to 90% off right now in my Christmas sale to help your holidays and bless your new year, help you fill your freezer, feed your family sanely, and do all the things. So be sure to click the first link in the description below and get up to 90% off now in my big batch cooking extravaganza sale just by clicking the first link in the description below. Yay! And so now we are doing it. I am getting going, getting the first several loaves, getting the first several bowls with the needed ingredients in them. And what I am going to put in each of these bowls is Lisa's very super easy beginner sourdough bread ingredients, and I will link her recipe in the description below. This is the very first sourdough recipe I ever did. I felt like Lisa was in my kitchen holding my hand. I started out, of course, not just doing one loaf, but I started out with 2, and from there I continued to increase. So it's 3.5 cups of all-purpose flour. It's half a cup of starter that is bubbly and active. It's 1 1/3 cups of water, and it is 2 teaspoons of salt. And what I do is I combined all of those ingredients into a mixing bowl. And then I cover that bowl with plastic wrap or a tea towel, whatever you have on hand, and I allow it to rest for about 30 minutes or so. And then we go through a stretch and fold process. Again, Lisa details in her recipe that I will link below, but it's basically where every 30 minutes for about 3 rounds, you grab the edges of the dough and you pull it up and you stretch it towards you. You go through several rounds of that. And once you complete your 3rd round, then you cover the dough again. And this is where you let it do a big bulk ferment in a warm place until it has doubled in size, and this can take 12 hours or more. It just all depends on your home temperatures. I know my kitchen heats up quite a bit, but it's definitely a much longer fermenting time. And I have my nice little assembly line going, and I have 3 batches right now already waiting for me on the counter, so that is nice, except I forgot my salt in my last batch. I just know I do. So videoing the cooking is helpful because I can play back sometimes and double check and like, oh yeah, I really did miss doing that. So I added my 2 teaspoons of salt, stirred that back in. I do like that press and seal plastic wrap. I didn't buy that on purpose. I think that was a substitution in a grocery order, and yeah, I just like it. It cooperated very nicely. It did its job. So I might get some of that on purpose another time for sure. And I am adding in my active starter, and I'm going to add in the 1 1/3 cups of water there and stir it all up. Now, as I progress in my sourdough skills, and if I want my bread to be exact and perfect and just, you know, cut down on errors or dough that's inconsistent with other batches, really what I need to progress towards is the baking stage in life where I am properly weighing my ingredients. I'm not there yet. Right now, I'm having a pretty good time and a decent amount of success doing it the way I'm doing it, but my goal is to, once we get back in the swing of things, at some point, you know, maybe in 2024, we shall see what the future holds. I will actually begin the process of weighing my ingredients. I know Lisa shared with me that when she did that, it did make a difference, and so I would like to grow up one day and weigh my ingredients as well. But right now, we are doing things. We are using all the wonderful space on this 12-foot island to just spread out our sourdough bowls that are doing their, well, we're going to do the stretch and folds, and then they're going to do their big bulk ferment, and that's what the island is for. And it makes my heart happy when we're using it and we're doing it. Now, I do go through a tremendous amount of flour with doing all of this baking. I do eventually just dump flour in a bowl and it's easy to access, but for right now I'm just running through so much. I'm leaving it in the bag and I'm just using my baking measuring cups to scoop it out of there. And I'm also chatting with family, stirring my beginner sourdough bread there, and enjoying this cooking time for sure. And I have just about run out of my press and seal plastic wrap that I was enjoying. Like I said, we will get some more of that. And also, it has just been good for me to have 2 batches of starter going and to go through the process every day of feeding my starter and discarding my sourdough starter. I leave a little bit every day and then I refeed it so it is nice and bubbly. And I'm saving all my sourdough discard for upcoming sourdough discard baking that we're going to be doing. And so now I've had to go back to regular old plastic wrap. I do need to get one of our super mega size plastic wrap boxes from Costco. I do plan to get that in an upcoming super mega massive Costco grocery haul that will definitely be on my list. I had a viewer reach out to me the other day. She said her sourdough starter has been in her refrigerator for months and she doesn't know how to revive it. So, you know, my sourdough starter went in the refrigerator for months at a time, and I would have weeks where I would take it out and I would feed it and I would think, this is my week, I'm going to be able to do some sourdough baking, and it just would not happen. And I wasn't sure what was coming up next, so I just went ahead and put my sourdough starter back in the refrigerator. So it's very forgiving if you have a nice active starter. And I know with mine, I took it out. I poured off the hooch. That's the liquid that forms at the top as it gets hungry. I poured that off and then I fed it with 1 cup of flour, 1 cup water. Some days I'll do 2 cups of flour and 2 cups of water. It doesn't have to be that much either. It could honestly be half a cup of flour, half a cup of water. But I just started feeding it and discarding it. And over a few days, everything was nice and active and bubbly, and then I was able to jump into these recent sourdough projects. And that's what I'm doing here. I just fed my starter for the night now after we discarded a little more, and we have our 12 batches or so of our sourdough bread going. And as I like to joke, my life is forever, you know, puttering in the kitchen and wiping down countertops and all of those things. Thankful to have countertops to wipe up. Just picking up as we move along. And now this bread is going to sit out, or this dough rather, is going to sit out now overnight until the next day. Here we are, new day. Yes, I am going to put an apron on here in a moment. And we are going to go through and do the next process with our dough that has been doing a big bulk ferment overnight on the counter. All right, apron is on, and I am taking off my brace for my broken wrist at this time. At this point, I was a few days away from what I was hoping would be my potential final doctor appointment with my orthopedic doctor who's been handling my broken wrist for me. He had told me that at times when I'm cooking, if I needed to use my left hand at this point, I could continue to steady items with it, and I could, even with bread making, take my brace off and just try to use it and see how it felt. And, you know, don't overuse it. Of course, pain is my guide. And so on this day, you know, I had done some big batch cooking while using my wrist in the brace. But on this day, I thought, yeah, with this shaping of the bread, I didn't want to get the dough on my brace either, because that's a mess to clean up. And I thought this will be good for my wrist. I'll see how it does. And so I am able to steady the dough with it. Right now we're doing the shaping process, and I just sprinkle a little bit of flour in each one of these bread baskets here. I love the beautiful pattern that comes out of the dough when it's in the baskets. I have about 6 or 7 baskets. I don't have to only use the baskets. I can just use another clean dough in particular, clean bowl. So you just use what you have. But I have enjoyed, as I've added these baskets to my sourdough bread making collection. And that dough I was just working with was a little stickier than some of the others I had run into. And that's just where, again, one day, weighing the ingredients should get us a more consistent dough. But I just added a little more flour to it, and things continue to progress forward. And so here I'm shaping my dough and make it into a nice little ball, sprinkling some flour in my basket again, put my dough in, put a little cover on it. And what we will do is, once we process all of these bread loaves, again, it's about 12. I know I was saying I had 14 bowls, but I tapped out at 12, yay. We'll put all this bread in the refrigerator and it will rest for about 15 hours or so. But honestly, it can rest longer than that. I have had times during sourdough summer where I would have things just waiting for the next process for a couple days until I could get back to it. And I did even ask Lisa last summer if that was fine. And she said, yes, it's actually a perfect way if you can prep your dough and then you just have it there waiting. And whenever you want to make fresh sourdough bagels or a fresh loaf of bread or whatever it may be, well, you've done the longer process, the harder work that is done, and then you can just continue the other parts of the process after that. So I'm just doing some cleaning up of my bowls since they had dough doing a bulk rise. I wanted to just get some hot soapy water in them so they are easier to wash a little later. And we are just continuing through our assembly line for this process. And so here's where I have run out of my baskets and I'm just using other clean bowls. The bread still turns out fantastic. It just doesn't have those nice little circle ridges that just look so Panera bread of it, right? But it does just fine resting in the bowls, and I'm still able to score the bread. It still has a beautiful rise. And again, we're using what we have. And so here, again, because it is another day, I am discarding more of my sourdough starter because I know I have bagels and other projects coming up. And I feel like even having sourdough discard in my refrigerator is, nice little gold mine for future cooking projects. And I'm also going to feed my starter right now in these big containers. I know it's getting close to the time where I need to switch out my containers and wash these, but I decided to just push it one more day, get everything a good stir, and maybe the next day or so I would switch out to some fresh containers. I like to do that because you never want mold to grow, and when there's a lot of starter on the sides and it's just in the kitchen at room temperature under a towel, things can happen. So we are continuing on, and guess what happens when you're doing a lot of sourdough baking? The tripod. the full-time YouTuber, things that happen. The whole tripod is just covered in flour and starter and adventures. It has stories to tell. So I'm doing a hot soapy washcloth clean on it. And now it is the following day. And before we get baking this bread and doing that assembly line, I am, per my usual, just like wiping down the counters, I am wiping down my stove because my stove is getting more and more use every day. And I have so many teenagers and preteens that have learned how to cook on a gas stove. They make eggs and they make bacon and they cook things up and they make their own breakfast sandwiches. And again, that's why I know making big batch sourdough bagels will be so popular as well. They love these artisan loaves that I'm making on this day, which again is using Lisa's beginner sourdough bread recipe. It is just so fantastic. But we'll use the bread knife or the electric bread knife to cut that down, and they will make sandwiches out of that, or just have hunks of it with butter. I mean, it's so popular. Also with the bagels, they'll make sandwiches and stuff out of those too. Breakfast sandwiches, lunch sandwiches, all the sourdough Sammies. And so I am wiping down my cast iron grates for my big stove here and giving them a good washing, and then we will get to baking up this bread. And we do have another mega big batch cooking project coming up as well. So what I have done here is I preheated both of my ovens to about 500 degrees, and I had my little bread oven there and also my Dutch ovens in there warming up. And now I'm taking the lids off of those. I'm turning each oven down a bit, and we're going to get making our sourdough loaves now. As I love to say, yay, we're doing it. So I do put some parchment paper in each little Dutch oven there. We can rip parchment paper, we can do it, but there they are. They are just hot. They are hot. Don't touch them with your bare hands, that's for sure. And now I'm going to get my bread out. Now again, these won't have the pretty patterns on it, but they come on out just fine. That's why I put a little flour on the bottom of each bowl there, and I'm going through scoring the bread, and I'm learning more and more about this. There's just so many beautiful designs that can be done, and so I am just doing some basic ones on here. But again, I'm proud of us. We're doing it, and I take each loaf that I prep and get ready, goes in one of the Dutch ovens. And oh yes, there's the ridges from the basket. I just love it, love it, love it. And I love how it expands. And I take each parchment paper and then drop it down in the Dutch oven, and we put it in the oven for about it's about 15 minutes with the lid on, and then we remove the lid, and then it's another 15 to 20 minutes without the lid. Depends, of course, on, you know, how proficient ovens are heating. And sometimes I might leave mine in a few minutes too long. I think I do that one time in this big filming day. But we love sourdough for sure. Wonderful speed of filming. The time has gone by. It is now time to remove the lids. So I'm going through and doing that using my wonderful little homemade cooking mitts that my folks have made for me. And so there's the loaves now with the lids removed, and they're going to go back in for another 15 or 20 minutes. And I'm going to go through here and feed my sourdough, discard it some more, because again, it's another day. So I need to mess with it every day. That's part of having it out on the counter. But again, as I build these muscles back and get back in these routines, it has not been a problem. It's been several weeks now that my starter has been out, and I'm glad. I'm glad that it's out and that we're using it. And so I'm giving each container there a cup of water, and I'm going to give each a cup of flour, and then we will see it again the next day. And here I'm struggling. How do I hold my camera? Move 2 jars of sourdough discard. Got to get it just right in my armpit. We're doing it there, but I'll show you my sourdough discard collection in the fridge. I know it is so much. If you see the other jars at the bottom of my fridge, those are bacon grease. So we love cooking with bacon grease as well. And now here we go, nice little assembly line. Time to get the first batches of bread out. I do try to let them cool just for a few minutes before I move them off the parchment paper, but as the assembly line continues, there's just no time for that. But look, there's our very first 3 batches of sourdough bread in so many months. And we're gonna stack them up on the stove there. Yes, hot, hot fingers. This is our next 3 batches getting ready to go in the ovens. We're just trucking right along here. And everything is looking so nice. Now we're going to take the lids off of these. And now time has moved forward, and it's time to get these next 3 batches out. You see on the counter there, I've got my next 3 batches ready to go. Now that batch just did not hold up well, so I'm gonna lose that batch, although I learned later with another batch to just go ahead and bake it, and it turns out fine. So, you know, past self, I'm looking at, or future self, I'm looking at past self, and I'm thinking, oh man, I should have just thrown that dough on some parchment paper and gave it a shot. Here's how our loaves are looking, and I got one that the top got a little dark on me, and that loaf is gone, so it all works out. Okay, real quick oopsie, I just realized I didn't put my lids on, so oops, we'll get the lids on now. Okay, I hope I didn't mess this up too much because my timer went off and I was on the phone with a friend and I think I was on with her for 5 minutes. Okay, we're good. The lids are still on. Where I can get in trouble, that's where I got the little dark spot there, is if I leave them in a little too long and the lids are off. So, lids protect them. Yes, they're looking lovely. We're doing it. I'm proud of us. Pretty. Look at those, gorgeous. Who thought gorgeous bread? But look at this on this day of all days, this Red Resurrection Day. We have some beautiful, beautiful bread here. Okay, so I live by this watch timer, and you know we also use the microwave timer. So I'm just gonna set it for 15 minutes. But we will be in here. We will not be on the phone. I'm gonna be talking to you, but we'll stop once this buzzes. We will pull those out. And then we have 2 loaves. Because that one loaf, I don't know what it did, but something wasn't right. So, we will not have 12 loaves. We will have 11. But still, I mean, look at us. And we have, how many quarts of sourdough discard? I think I have 8 or so. Starting tomorrow, in this video, it's going down. We are just doing, I don't even know, no number. We are doing a limitless amount of sourdough discard bagels. We are. We did them this summer and they were gone within 48 hours. I think I made 72 and they were gone within 48 hours. So how many are we making? I don't know. I showed you in the refrigerator. We have the Walmart bagels now, but if I get making sourdough now, and just, I don't think they're gonna all make it to the freezer, but I believe, and I have a stink bug looking at me. Oh my goodness, please get out of my house. Okay. I believe that we will get sourdough bagels in the freezer so I can stop keeping Walmart in business by buying their bagels every week. Okay. Yay. Looking very, very done, and I'm running out of room on my stove because I'm filming a homemade chicken broth situation for another video. Let's see here. Well, I'm just gonna have to blend it along here. Only a 60-inch stove. Gotta find some room. Leave that in there for now. And as you see, you gotta be careful because that parchment paper will start to rip, and then you could be burning your hand on a pan, as you now know, or drop your bread on the floor. But that is gold sourdough, and I'm not telling. Okay. This is where oven mitts are a thing, right? I know you're saying that. I know you're telling me. I can hear you. And you know I like my little homemade oven mitts that I'm also cooking right now. But this calls for the real deal. Oh, can I get this on my brace? Okay, pretty good. Come on out. Let me just get the whole thing out. I know this is graceful. You come here for grace, right? But, I mean, the bread's looking beautiful. That's what we asked for. Bread cooperation. Okay, and I can actually turn this other one off because I only have 2 loaves left. Okay, I will go back to my little handheld mitts. I'm just putting the lid with its partner in crime. Okay, this is another mystery loaf, but I'm gonna just try to shape it the best I can. We'll bake it and see what happens. And I will say that that mystery loaf turned out fantastic. Everybody ate it just the same. No one knew, and it was delicious. Bake your mystery loaves. But wait, I forgot the lids. Not too long this time though. It's been a whole 30 seconds. Good job, Lodge Cast Iron. Okay, just a girl and her bread. This was a good afternoon run through baking. We did it. And so we will have this obviously as a side that's available with dinner tonight. I'm going to probably keep out 6 or 7 of these loaves, and then we will wrap up the remaining 5 or so and get those in the freezer. And then next up, buckle up, hold on tight, super mega sourdough bagels. Let's do it. Well, friends, we are back for the sourdough discard bagel segment edition time in this big batch marathon sourdough cooking video. So it's been a few days since we finished the bread. I even had a family member take a loaf of that wonderful, beautiful sourdough bread on a recent trip, and then they came back, and then today they were going somewhere else and they took another loaf with them. That's how good it is. That is traveling sourdough. But real quick, my plan was that I was continuing the sourdough bagels the day after I finished the bread. And yeah, that didn't happen. It's been a few days. Hello, mom life and being flexible. So what I've been working on today is, as our afternoon progressed, I have been running dough through, I almost said my Vitamix, through my KitchenAid here. And now I have 7 bowls doing their first rise, and several of those I could go ahead and cut the bagels out of them so they can do their second rise. Haven't gotten to that yet, but it's at least there, rising away and liking it. I've got the yeast now in my KitchenAid with a cup of water. I let it sit for about 5 minutes, and as always, I'm following Lisa at Farmhouse on Boone, her sourdough directions. My sourdough starter is from Lisa's starter. So I think Sarah calls her starter Lisa. Maybe we'll name that too. Although I think we're naming it Hopes and Dreams. I don't remember what we're gonna name my sourdough starter. Anyway, it's handling its business. So I have been discarding every day. I probably have 9 or so quart jars of discard, and I use 1 cup of sourdough discard in each batch of bagels. And each batch we're doing is supposed to get us about 8 bagels. So we are marching on through. I'm not sure how many dozens of bagels we will have, but I'm sure it'll be a super mega massive amount of bagels. So this is about ready here. I just put it in my mixer and whisk it. And actually what I'm planning to do, and that's my little timer going off telling me to do it. I have some other things going on this evening that I need, just, you know, we're juggling mom life, right? Anyway, so here's my discard. 1 cup of that is going in the KitchenAid, along with the yeast and the 1 cup of warm water that was already in there. I'm going to try to get through a few more of these loaves, and I need to get out for my run. I didn't get my run in. It's a whole thing you can see over on my Instagram, but I've been, sorry, I thought I had something on my shirt, but that's just the cow on my shirt. I did not get my run in the morning, and if I don't get it in the morning, I've been trying to do either a 3K or a 5K every day. If I don't get it in the morning, I can get it in the afternoon or the evening, and we're gonna get it done tonight. I can, the other day I ran a 5K in 41 minutes, which is pretty good for a grandma and who's just starting out, right? And I did a 3K in 24 minutes, so my pace is not the best, but less than 13 minutes, which is good. I think it was like 12.51, if that means anything to you. And I'm gonna run my first official like 5K race here in about 2 weeks. So what I'm doing now, I'm eyeballing, you know, our eyeballing tools here, about 2 tablespoons of honey. It's just not worth it to actually measure out 2 tablespoons. And so I already put in 2 teaspoons of salt, the cup of sourdough discard, and I will get footage here for you of like each little step in a minute, but just catching you up. So I'm gonna go for a run, and then I have to go pick somebody up and pick up a Walmart grocery pickup order, and we will just continue. We're gonna get started running these bagels through the oven. Once you get to the oven point, you know, they have to do the first rise, then we shape the bagels, then they do their second rise, then we boil them, and then for boiling them, it's about a minute on each side. Then they go in the oven. Once they're in the oven, it seems like the easiest part, they're just in there about 20-25 minutes, and the bagels are done. And all of my large family mama friends are saying, I sure hope you're doing a lot because they go through them so quick, and they do. I think the last time I did sourdough bagels, I did 120. I know one time I did 72. I think one time I did 48. Anyway, so then I've got to kind of baby my mixer here. So just baby it a little bit. I don't remember having to baby it so much before, but it's okay. Yay. I can't, you may notice too, my wrist brace is off, and that's because yesterday I went to the doctor. The bone in my wrist has healed, yay. I do have a chip of bone hanging out, like whatever, might be TMI, sorry about that. And there's still some swelling. I don't know if you can tell the differences in my hands there, but I mean, I still feel it over here. But he encouraged me to take the brace off now and just start using my hand within comfort level. Don't do anything to cause pain, but it's going to be weak. It feels weak, but it feels stronger already than yesterday. So I've just been doing all I can with it, like carrying my keys, carrying my purse, which you know I've had good use of my fingers once I got out of that ER wrap and into my brace. So we're doing things. I do have an order for hand therapy, which we have a couple hand therapists in our area. I heard, I haven't called on that yet, but I do hope to get in for some hand therapy as well. He said it'll take about 6 to 8 weeks. I know several of you care about what's happening with my wrist. So anyway, it's being used, yeah. Okay, so I'm gonna try to get ahead here. I don't know why I didn't think of this earlier, but I'm going to get my yeast and my 1 cup of water going in 5 more bowls, because I have 2, 4, 6. I have 6 bowls there, and then I have another one in the mixer, and then I have these 5, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. That'll give us 12 loaves of bagels, and Mama's tired. That'll give us 96 bagels, which gives us 8 dozen, yay. So it's 3 teaspoons of yeast, and I have these little packs right now. I also, we could grab the jars, but this is what I'm using up right now. Each of these little packs is 2 1/4 teaspoons. So I'm using that, and then I'm getting 3/4 of a teaspoon out of the next pack, which then starts to throw the math off on subsequent packs, but that's why you're going to see me measuring this out. Alrighty, so then it's throw a little oil in a bowl. Go in over here. And the dough's supposed to sit for about 60 to 90 minutes. So I have them in order. I'm starting with my bowls I got done sooner, that we will be processing first, and by the time we get to the end, we'll be at the end, won't we? But here we are, and I'm just going to cover it in a wet tea towel, put it here on the island, and that will be a thing. It will do what it needs to do, and we will do what we need to do. So what I am adding to my mixing bowl for my mixer for each batch of homemade sourdough discard bagels is, it is first, again, and this is Lisa's recipe, I'll link it below, it's 3 teaspoons of active dry yeast and 1 cup of warm water. I let that sit to bloom the yeast for about 5 minutes. And then to my mixer I add 1 cup of sourdough discard, about 2 tablespoons of honey, and of course we're eyeballing that, 2 teaspoons of salt, and then 4 cups of unbleached all-purpose flour. And I'm just continuing the process, so I add a little oil to the bowl and I put the next batch of dough in the bowl, and we are going to let that sit on the island now, and I'm continuing adding all the ingredients in for another batch. But eyeballing the honey has not affected the bagels in any negative way whatsoever. So we're just moving right along. Okay, I had to go back and watch the video footage, but yes, that was 4 cups of flour. Here we go. And when your honey crystallizes like that, you can just soak it in a warm bowl of water and it'll help the whole process, but I also don't mind just digging the chunks out and getting the bagels mixed up. So here are our 12 batches of bagels that are on the counter now, doing what they need to do. All right, we got groceries being brought in. I still haven't got my run in yet, and it's now 7:42. So I'm gonna run at 8 p.m. I was already running this evening in the dark, because you know it gets dark at 5 now, but I was hopeful. I thought a few hours ago, so this video is becoming, you know, make a plan and keep moving, keep on moving, right? So I am choosing, we're gonna get back to bagels here. Just stick with me, kid, right? The wonderful thing when you get making bagels and a lot of sourdough things, I've done this with English muffins and other projects, I can put all of these in a refrigerator, and then tomorrow afternoon, or even if it's the following afternoon, I can get, like this is a nice dough that has already doubled in size. I can get this back out. We can continue with the process, making the bagels, letting them do their second rise, boiling them, baking them. But I'm choosing my mama's self right now. And you know I've definitely had cooking times, cooking videos, big projects where I stay up till like midnight or 1. And I don't want to do that. I want to go for a run, get a hot shower, do a few little mama evening things, go to bed at a good time, get up for an important appointment in the morning, shuffle along, keep moving forward. So, okay, but the nice thing is video time, it'll be 2 seconds. Well, happy afternoon. We are back to making bagels. The last time I worked on these bagels was Tuesday. This dough, we put it in the fridge. Now it is Thursday, and it is bagel making time. So what I am doing right now is dividing each bowl full of dough into the 8 separate sections. Then we roll them into balls, and then flatten them, poke a hole through each one, flatten them just a little bit, poke a hole through each one, and then we're gonna put them on these pans, cover them with tea towels, and then they will rise for about 30 minutes to an hour. And then we'll get our pot of water boiling, and we'll just get to it. So this has been a big project that we are now getting to the end of. Well, the end of hopefully the last day of, for sure. So I'm just cutting each batch of dough, as I mentioned, into 8 sections. I roll it into a ball, flatten it out a little bit, and poke a hole through it. And then I am putting each bagel that I hand shape onto a pan. We will cover that pan there then with a wet tea towel, and we will let those bagels rise for about 30 minutes to an hour or so. And then we will begin the process to boil them, and then get them on another pan and actually put them in the oven and bake them. That's the easiest part by the time we get to the end of this. But these homemade sourdough discard bagels are certainly worth the prep work and the project time, because they are all kinds of hopes and dreams amazing. And as I cut my sections, they may not be each the same perfect equal amount, and so I'll just cut a little extra off of any sections there that are a little too big, and make, you know, if I cut and can only get, we'll say 6 sections, I'll divide it down until I have 8. It all works out in the end. But just like there, I put two little pieces that were left together to make one final bagel. It's definitely relaxing to have my earbud in and listen to some music and just get my bagel making station time going. And it does feel like a huge accomplishment to have so many pans of bagels on the island, rising a little more before we start the boiling process. And I know it is winter time, so cue the winter hats. Yes, you know, in the summer I wear my summer hats because I'm out at the lake or out on the property with the kids. And now cue the winter hats because we've actually had some cold temperatures in Virginia. Can you believe it? We had our first little bit of snow in our part of Virginia. The higher elevations had several inches. We just really, it seemed like, had a dusting here in the valley, but it still was nice. The mountains still had snow on them. It was beautiful to see, and I was just happy that my driveway didn't really need plowed. And so winter is upon us, and also coming up in this video, you'll see a change in the background there, where here in a few minutes there will be Christmas lights and eventually the Christmas tree, because we just continue on. The kids one afternoon got all the Christmas stuff out for the kitchen and decorated it and had a lot of fun doing that as well. We also got some of the cookie kits from Walmart, and we did gingerbread men cookies, and we decorated ugly Christmas sweater cookies. I do plan to do our Pop-Tart Christmas gingerbread house projects with another group of family friends. That's always a lot of fun, and we're hoping to make some Christmas candy and some homemade Christmas cookies as well. We have a fun event coming up. It's kind of like a Christmas at the Zoo type event that I got us tickets for. And then we also got tickets to the Nutcracker Ballet that will be at one of our local colleges, and we have good family friends that perform in that every year, so it'll be so fun to see them perform in that again. And it's been a couple years since we've been to that, so we definitely have our Merry Christmas activities in full swing, and we are loving it. And as the days go on without my wrist brace, I'm just continuing to improve. And so I'm not only removing my wrist brace how I was at the beginning of this video for a little bit here and there. I am just leaving it off indefinitely. It has worked out, sleeping with it off. That was what I was most cautious about, because I did have a few times where I had to wash my brace or air it out. And if I woke up and kind of forgot, I would remind myself real quickly, oh, you have an injury, this hurts. But things have been going well, and my wrist is getting stronger, and my hand is getting stronger. And so we're having lots of good improvements. And I imagine doing activities like shaping bagels is also good home hand therapy for my wrist healing too. And here you can see the Christmas pillows have come out in the background and some other Christmas decorations, so it's getting very Christmassy on up in here. And I did have a batch or two of dough that seemed stickier than my other batches, was not as firm, and so I just added a little flour to the cutting board there and to that dough, and continued to just shape and roll my bagels, and those turned out perfect. So there were no issues with that, even though the dough was slightly different. We are, I believe, just about on the last batch of bagel dough. Again, you can make your bagel dough and it can sit in the refrigerator for several days. And then whenever you want to have hot and fresh homemade sourdough discard bagels, you can take it out and just continue this process here. And again, you don't have to make 8 dozen bagels at one time, but if you want to, you can. Now I'm just going to wash up and clean up here for a moment, and then we're going to get to boiling bagels. And here we are. Here are all our batches just resting on the counter. They need to rest for about 30 minutes to an hour, so I started with the batches I had done first, and we'll end with the last batches. And so once I had my pot of water boiling, it's a matter of letting the bagels boil for about a minute on each side. And so I flip them over. Now Lisa's directions do say to add in some baking soda and some brown sugar to the water. I had forgot to do that on my very first boiled batch, but I did it afterwards. I also have another big boo-boo here. I totally forgot to put parchment paper on this pan, and I did not think about it till my second pan. So you'll see we do have to get a little creative getting the first batch of bagels off the pan, but that's the first batch of bagels that my family ate, and there were no complaints. So it all still works out well, and that's all we need. We just need our food to work out no matter what kind of cooking adventures we have along the way. We need good food to eat by the time we're done with all of this, and we do. There they are spinning around. We're going to take those out and put them on our pan and get them baking in the oven. Oh yay, first batch in the oven. Past Jamerrill, future Jamerrill is saying you forgot parchment paper, but you're going to figure it out here in a minute, girl. We know you are. Now cue the parchment paper. Yes, it's going to go so much better. And so now each batch of bagels I will put on parchment paper on the pans and get those in the oven. We have a real nice homemade sourdough bagel assembly line going now. And so with some of the bagel batches, I am sprinkling a little brown sugar on the top. Lisa does have different flavor ideas on her blog post with her recipe, and brown sugar was one of the ones she suggested. So I thought, that's fine. I won't do all 6 million bagels like that, but I will definitely do some. Of course, this evening, everyone is just going to eat as many fresh sourdough bagels as they like. And yes, some do, especially those hungry teens, do have more than one hot and homemade delicious sourdough bagel. And even younger folks still at least had one. They are that delicious. Mama has one also. But my plan was to put them in containers in my refrigerator for a few days, and then whatever is left, like about the 3-day mark, I would then go through and bag them properly and get what is left in the freezers so that we will have them. I know, as I shared, we have those Walmart bagels also, and I figured with that we could also throw those on the bagel, just in the bagel, yeah, throw those in the freezer just depending on popularity and such. If the popularity waned on those, we could throw them in the freezer as well. That's why we love our freezers. But that was my plan on this big batch cooking time, is we would get as much eating as we would like out of the fresh homemade sourdough bagels and then freeze what was left. And then whenever we need fresh bagels, we will just pull them out of the freezer and the work is already done. Yay. And I'm having my reward of my homemade sourdough bagel with some cream cheese. Just absolutely delicious. There's our first 3 batches out of the oven. Those were the next 3. This was the very first batch without the parchment paper, and so we just used the dough scraper there and got each bagel off, and they were gone. So no problems there. There's some different bagels that have the brown sugar baked into them, and so this is another batch that we're going to get in the oven now. We are getting so close to being done with running these batches through. Again, it was some prep work, but someone asked me the other day if these recipes are difficult, and they're not. It's just really, step 1, step 2, step 3, work through the process. If you get it to a certain point where you can just leave it in the fridge for a few days if you have to until you can get back to it, as I've obviously demonstrated in this big batch cooking marathon video. Sourdough is very forgiving in that way. And I've had no issues with it. Through the summer we did sourdough cookies and sourdough hamburger buns and sourdough hot dog buns and just sourdough all the things. And even with the cookie dough, getting it prepped ahead and having it in the refrigerator ready to go is very helpful too. Yes, let's make some sourdough cookies. Not in this video, but hopefully coming up in our future. That sounds delicious. And grand finale, we are pulling out our last few pans, putting in, I believe, our very last batch. Yay! We have done it. We did all of this super mega sourdough baking together over many, many days. Thank you for doing this marathon cooking with me. Thank you for hanging out with me. I will see you real soon with another brand new video, and we will see what we cook up next, and I'll also talk with you in those comments below. Bye-bye. Thanks so much for hanging out with me and doing all of that massive sourdough baking. Be sure to click the first link in the description below and click on over to my Big Batch Cooking Christmas sale, where you can save up to 90% off my most popular Big Batch cooking guides, including all 24 of the brand new rebranded Big Batch Freezer Meals, guides 1 through 24, where you can literally fill your freezer or freezers with hundreds of freezer meals of all shapes and sizes with various dietary needs and so much more when you click that first link in the description below. And I'll see you real soon with another brand new video. Bye bye.